All right, so our presenters today are Dr. Jason Lee, Professor of Sport Management, and Tia Kimball, Instructor of Teaching, Learning, and Curriculum. And I am Jamie Chairs, an Instructional Designer for CERT. So before telling you what the tool is, let's start a little bit with the why. So why is the tool needed? Only 20 to 30% of students in the average classroom do assigned reading. Whereas in Perusall classes, they found that greater than 90% consistently do the reading. So the overall goal for Perusall is for students to come to class prepared by having engaged with the assigned content ahead of time. When it first started, when we first started using it, it was just like a text-based. And so, it was some of the things here are designed for reading resources, but now they've actually expanded that to be able to use video and podcasts. So you can actually bring in other types of resources and have everything kind of combined and organized in one place. So in one sentence, what is Perusall? It is a social e-reader / annotation platform that engages and rewards students for interacting with assigned content. And so what does that look like? You can, like I was saying, you can pull in content from anywhere. So the reason we kind of are talking about it this week in conjunction with our OE week and our open education resources is that it is really great for bringing in your open educational resources. So sometimes you find individual articles or individual pieces of things that you want to kind of bring together and organize. Maybe you don't have just one textbook, but you have different pieces. And so Perusall also allows you to kind of bring in all of that stuff. Also, you can bring in your videos, your YouTube videos, your lectures, anything like that, podcasts, and you can bring it into this platform. You can also bring in publisher textbooks. Perusall, again, doesn't charge anything for using their software or their site. But if you decide to pull in like a publisher website or publisher textbook, then students would just need to purchase that textbook through Perusall so that they are, paying for the rights to use that book. Once you pull in that content, students get to annotate within kind of beside or in line with the text. And so they can asynchronously respond to each other's comments and questions in context with the reading or resource. And then you also get some metrics. There's a student confusion report that is generated where you can see where, you can kind of quickly at a glance look at where students are having the most questions at or where there's a lot of interaction happening at. And then you can also kind of see where where the annotations and conversations are happening at. And then if you choose to use the Canvas integration, you can have the option to have it automatically sync with the grades in the gradebook. All right, so now you know a little bit about what it is. I'm going to turn it over to two of our faculty who have been using Perusall to share their experiences with it. And I was going to ask Tia if you would mind starting for us.
I've been using Perusall since I went through OER, the OER training, which I appreciate because I really wanted my students to cut down the cost for my students for textbooks. Not only that, I get to choose what they're reading based on what I think they need, which textbooks don't always have, right? So this is where in my Canvas, I have my Canvas divided into weeks. And so each week has a reading and they just click on the link for the reading and it takes them to the directions for what they're supposed to do. So that's on the next slide. So all of my ratings, they're not always for comments, questions, observations, or comments. Well, yeah, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 2, depending on the length of the reading. And they always have to respond to at least 3 of their peers' responses or questions about the readings, which I found that students will go above and beyond. And they go out and they do a little research on their own and they find resources to answer their classmates' questions about what the questions they had about the reading, or even making connections about things that they've experienced in their field experiences. I'm a TESOL lecturer, so my field is TESOL, teaching English speakers of other languages. So they make a lot of connections about their classroom, what they've seen with their field experiences, which brings that real world content and real world content and connections that I really enjoy reading. And I think, actually, I know they enjoy adding that perspective as well. There's some students who are like, oh, Perusall is so hard. But what they really mean is they don't want to read. So this is holding them accountable for having to read. And that makes my classes easier when they come to class already having read the content and read the material. And that way I'm able to see, just like Jamie mentioned, the confusion report. I read through all of the comments and see, okay, what does everyone need to know? What does everyone need to know about this content so that I can manage their misconceptions, because I'm able to see much more clearly what their misconceptions are while they're reading because of the questions that they ask on the readings. Can you go to the next slide? Oh, all right. So then once they get into Perusall, that information is again in the reading so that they can see what they need to do in case somehow they missed it on the Canvas descriptions. And I tell them that you see here, it says once at the very end, one sentence comments, questions, and responses are scored as 0. So I've had students say, what does WIDA stand for example? And it's actually in the reading, so they haven't gotten there yet, or they haven't, Googled it and looked for it. So they're not allowed to ask for definitions of acronyms anymore, because I did have students asking questions like that. So it became more specific about what they weren't able to do and what they did need to do in order to get the score that they need. Okay. So this is an example from one of my Perusall conversations. And I love, again, I said this a second ago, but I love reading the threads and saying what their thinking is. And this is one where a student asked about how educational policies affects WIDA, which is an assessment tool for English language learner proficiency. And so then I was able to come in, and you see my comment down, 1, 2, 3, fourth comment down, letting them know that WIDA isn't affected. So I blocked out their names. So I responded to everyone that was on that thread previously so that they would be notified of my response to the original comment. So that's one of the things that I instruct my students to do, is to always at the person that they're responding to, so that that person can be notified of their responses. Every time someone asks me, I get an email letting me know that someone has basically called my attention. So that's really useful too. Although I'm eventually going to read all of the comments, but to go in and make sure that I address whatever question that student is asking me directly. They're like, oh, wait, hold on, we need Dr. Kimball. We don't know what's going on here, or how to connect this, or what this really means for us. Like I said, students making the connections, this last comment, this is very true. In one of my previous education classes, we had to learn about many different policies from local, state, and federal level programs that affected schools. There are also many court cases that we have yet to learn about that have led to the creation of policies that our schools use today. So I like that. I wanted to include that comment that the student made, showing how exactly they make connections to previous classes, to their field experiences, and really helping to deepen their understanding of what they're reading now and that content. And calling their classmates' attention to that as well, because they've all taken TESOL 1, the foundations course, before coming into this class. So students who may not remember that or may not have made that connections can read that comment, and I can also upvote their comment, which you see here. It says upvoted by instructor. So comments and questions, well, you can't do it with questions, but comments that really provide depth, I usually upvote those to let that student know that was a good comment that you made there. You can track the number of times that the students respond. When you go into, there's a place right before the reading, and it will show you by individual students how many comments they made and exactly what their comments are. I see Sarah asked that question. So yeah, it's really easy to see how many comments they've made because it's very clear. You can look by class, and Perusall will score it for you. But I don't always go with the Perusall scoring, because you can set different parameters for how it's going to score what they've done. Because there's been times where students haven't made the minimum number of comments that I require, but some of their comments are so in depth and so fleshed out that I'm like, that counts for 2. So like that, I'm going to give you the points for that, because that you really did a lot of work on the comments that you did have. So yeah.
Yeah. Are you using the holistic grading or are you using the annotation only grading?
I've used both. But I still kind of prefer to do it myself and read through the comments and just make sure that they have the content. So I've done both, but I feel like it's a little easier to do it myself.
And have you used this for face-to-face, distance learning, or
Everything.
both?
Everything. So when I was face-to-face, I used it. My online classes, I've used it. I've used it with the remote instruction that I've done recently. The other instructor uses it in her hybrid courses. So we've used it across the board. With my online classes, the master's courses that I teach, I use this primarily to replace discussion boards, because discussion boards are just, let's discuss the reading. So I don't need that anymore because you're discussing the reading within the reading. So that has taken place of the discussion boards. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have Jason, Dr. Jason Lee.
I've really enjoyed getting to use Perusall. I started using it a little over a year ago. So I guess last spring semester is when I really started getting a chance to really use this. I'd learned about it a bit before and thought it'd be great to incorporate, especially the timing was really right with some things I was wanting to do in my class, but also some things we had going on in our program. I was involved with a lot of things with field experiences at the time, and I'm in sport management. So with everything that was going on in the world and just some things, to consider with there, it gave me an opportunity. So I guess technically I guess in the springs when I really got into this, but didn't use it till the summer officially, should I say. But it was really good because we were coming up with some different coursework to take the place of the internship classes that our students weren't able to do because of all the uncertainty that was going on. So that the timing was really good for me to start jumping into utilizing this tool. And as such, I had a chance to use it in a variety of classes so far. I have a lot of plans for using it in other classes coming up. The first couple of courses that I utilized Perusall with, we used it where it was integrated with Canvas, and I was able to get a better feel for a lot of the things with that. But this current semester, I'm using Perusall in one of my classes, in my grad marketing class, and we were going through the Perusall site rather than going through Canvas. And there's really some pros and cons with both of those. Integrating it through Canvas allows some opportunities for grading to be utilized and implemented through the Canvas grade book. There's a lot of benefits with that, especially if there's a higher volume of students. But there are some, I guess, logistical and technical kind of things to be mindful of when you're doing that, because there is some room for error if you're changing the names of assignments or doing some of those things like that. It can cause some problems. And there's some other issues I found through trial and error and just experiencing things where, once you go through this more and more, you learn different strategies and you see potential problems that can come up, and you can better plan for those accordingly. So this semester, using it in the grad class, it was pretty simple. I just developed the class in Perusall, added it to my bank of classes I've already set up, and I just had the students, they were able to all go in and make sure that they signed up through Perusall. They had a course code that would let them know which course to get in, and there was absolutely no problems with that. And then, in terms of grading, one of the downsides of doing it that way is it doesn't, if you utilize the Perusall grading options, the other way can infuse that into your grade book. And that is a nice benefit, but using it this other way, it doesn't do that. But it's still, especially with the class I was teaching, it was a grad class with a dozen students. So that didn't really it was very easy to put the grades in that way. I guess another thing I think about with grading, when I used the version that's integrated through Canvas, there's an option where you can release all the grades to the students. And when you do that, it releases all the grades, which is fine if you do it after the assignment's due. If you do it before the assignment is due, it will release the grades as it is at that time. So some students want to see their grades and what it's looking like in the system. But let's say there's an assignment due Sunday. If you told them if I released the grades today, it would show my students that some of them already have full credit, some of them have partial credit, and are pretty close to getting full credit. So it can throw things off a little bit. I hope that's not confusing. I can add more detail to that as we move through some other parts of the presentation, but that's just one of the big takeaways I've had trying this in different ways. Jumping ahead here, this just shows some things of like what we're doing this current semester, and really even things leading right up until this week and today. I have my classes set up. I'll put my readings. I have my library of readings, develop assignments from that, and we go from there. One of the things that I've been doing lately, not only in this class, but some classes I'm working on for upcoming semesters, is utilizing different tool options with Perusall. So to begin with, everything I was doing was readings, whether it was, small reading excerpts, larger chunks of readings, articles, chapters, whatever it might be that we were building from that. Well, Perusall has since made options available where you can use YouTube and other types of videos, podcasts, and those kind of things. So for example, the most recent assignment I've had in my grad class is utilizing a video option. And as such, I'm able to share the video with them, add comments and questions. They're obviously able to do the other things that they're able to do in the reading assignments. And it's kind of a different approach. I'm still learning with this. So this is the first one I've tried as a video. But so far, so good. The really only downsides I've found, I've had a couple of students that have had some technical issues with where the video wasn't playing for them initially, or maybe there was some issues where the sound wasn't coming through. So still kind of ironing out the details on that and seeing what those situations are. I've got plans to do a lot with podcasting coming up, where we'll be able to use those sound files and let students be able to, in essence, identify, highlight, comment, engage through the podcast that we'll be utilizing as well. So that's a lot of the good stuff that's been going on so far. I'm a big fan of the tool. I've tried to talk it up with different people whether it's here at UNF or at friends of mine that are teaching at other institutions. I've found that it's been very beneficial in terms of student engagement, and that's really one of the key goals I've had with this, is to get students more engaged, particularly going back to our readings. It's a great way to get students to read where maybe they otherwise wouldn't. The feedback I've gotten has been terrific. The students really like the engagement, the interactivity of it all. They've equated it a lot to having a very social media feel, and they like being able to comment and engage and ask questions and have questions answered. And especially, I think, in the way things have been over the last year or so, I think that's added an extra dimension of connection that maybe we wouldn't have had. Certainly we wouldn't have had otherwise in some of the classes I've utilized this. So I think that's been a really big plus. And in my classes, I always try to get feedback throughout the semester and at the end of the semester. And the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive about utilizing Perusall. Particularly, it's been pointed out a lot, they like that much more than the traditional discussion board options and some things that either we've done in my classes or they traditionally do in some of their other courses.
All right. So as Jason was just talking about, you can choose whether or not you want to use the LTI app integration or not. So basically, you could just create your course in Perusall, and you could provide students a link to it, and they could go to it, and they could complete their things there. And I think, as Jason mentioned, students would just sign up for an account that way. And again, it's free for them to do that. Or there is a LTI, or a learning tool interoperability tool, that like an app that you can integrate into Canvas, but it does have its own kind of technical things that you should be aware of when using it. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about those little technical, gotcha things that can come up. And then if you have any other questions and stuff for Tia and Jason, we'll get to that. We'll give you some time for that as well. So yeah, if you choose to use the app, the benefits are that the automatic transfer or pass back of grades, and then the single sign-on. So when you click on the link from Canvas, it's going to pull your credentials, your sign-on information from Canvas. And so students' names and things like that would automatically go in, and they wouldn't have to set up like a different separate account if you use it that way. And same for yourself. So if you are interested in using the LTI, the integration, I have put into the chat, I shared a file, a little PDF guide of how to kind of add that app. And you can always just try it out. And if you decide, like Jason did and other people, that if it's too much trouble or more trouble that it's worth, you could, you could choose to just go back to just linking it normally or not using the integration. But there is a shared secret, a little code it's going to ask you for. And I did not put that within this PDF because that's something that we need to make sure stays institutional. And so whenever you do get ready to implement or try to add this app to your one of your Canvas courses, if you just want to first send an email to certlab@unf.edu, then and just ask, and that's in the instructions here in the guide. I just say just shoot them an email, ask them for the Perusall launch codes, and they will send that over to you. Just send them that email from your UNF account so that they know that you're, have the authority to be able to use that instance of it. But yeah, so that is there in the chat. And so, yeah, so just a couple of things about using that LTI integration. And a couple of these we've kind of touched on already when they were talking, but the single sign-on. So when you first integrate the app into your Canvas course, the first time you click on that link, it needs to be done by the instructor. So it's something that like I can't necessarily go in and set up for you because it's pulling your information from Canvas, and so it's going to know that you're the instructor in that course. And so it pulls that. So when you're the instructor and you go in and you hit that button first in Canvas, what it does is it's going to open up another tab, and it's going to actually create that course in Perusall that is now linked to your Canvas course. So that's what creates that linking. So just make sure that the instructor, like you're the first one to do that, to click it. And then from that point on, whenever students click on any of the links, again, their roster information will be pulled over. And so if you go into your course, you're not going to see a full roster yet of your students in Perusall, because it's going to wait until they actually click on the link for the very first time before it's going to show them their name in your roster in Perusall. Secondly, assignment titles must match. And so that's just one of those little things where if you can't figure out why your grades maybe aren't linking, and Perusall will give you a little like orange exclamation point that's like alerting you that there, this is not passing back to your grade book correctly. And it could be if your assignment titles don't match exactly from Canvas to Perusall. And so what I suggest is creating the assignment first in Perusall. And then they give you this link here, this little button that you can click that says copy full title for LMS. So if you click that, it just copies the title for you. And then you can go into Canvas, you can create the assignment, and then you just paste the title there so that you know that it's exactly the same. And then that way it's going to register to Perusall that this is, linking to the assignment in Canvas and Perusall. Along with that, the way you link it in the assignment settings in Canvas, you're going to choose external tool and you'll choose Perusall. And then I also suggest that you click this little button that says load this tool in a new tab. And what that does is it gives you that button right there where students will be able to click that. So when they go into the assignment, like Tia showed, they'll have that launch button there that they'll click that and it'll open Perusall in a new site, in a new tab for them. This is integral in making that grade pass back work. If students were to go to the course menu link and hit Perusall and then sidestep and not ever go into the assignment, then it's not going to pass back their grade for that particular assignment. So I also suggest once you've set up the course and to go ahead and hide that Perusall link from the side navigation menu, just go back into your settings in the course and to the navigation tab and to pull that down and remove it from students to be able to access Perusall in that way so that they kind of need to go through the assignment. Now they could still go hit that assignment, go into Perusall, and then start working ahead to other assignments if they're available for them there. And it's okay, it can be retroactively fixed. They just have to go back in at some point in Canvas and hit that button. So these are just a little bit of the kind of what we mean by it makes it, if you use this integration, yes, you have the automatic grading pass back to Canvas for you, but there's a couple of these little things that you really need to educate students on and just teach them like, hey, you have to click this link, and so, yeah, maybe I think it's not from what and Tia and Jason maybe can comment on this, but I think once you teach them, it's usually okay. There's maybe just like one or two that need further kind of instruction on it, but.
Yeah, when I had it integrated into Canvas just for them to go straight to the reading, it automatically takes them into Perusall. I didn't have a code for mine to do. It just takes them automatically into the section that they're supposed to be in with all of the readings. So I've never actually had any issues with anyone getting into Canvas, fortunately.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, the only issues I've had is not getting into it. It would be like some of the grading issues where they've gone back through. For example, if I had multiple assignments in there, they may go through another assignment, not the page in my Canvas module. And then it will show up in the Perusall grade book, but it doesn't transfer back over to the Canvas grade book. It has a little icon that denotes that you try to explain to the students, your grade will show up if you go back into the original assignment, but it's not reading that you've completed that essentially. So you can manually override it. You can see their grade on that and go back into the grade book. But I did have a handful of students that you always had to stay on top of that because you would see that it wouldn't flow back into the grade book and there would be some issue with that. And even, every now and then, even if you remind people repeatedly, it's still not a big problem, but just something to be mindful of.
Yeah, one of the things about grading, to go off what Jason just said, for me, when I had the grading going or linked to Canvas, was if I wanted to change the student's grade manually, it would revert back to the original grade and it wouldn't stay. The grade that I tried to change it to wouldn't stick. So that's kind of why I've removed the automatic grading. And I have like 25 students in my classes, so it's not like a huge deal. And there probably was a way around that. But at that time, I was like, I don't want to figure this out right now. So there could be something to do that could, override that, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely, like y'all said, just something to be mindful of, that about how that kind of grading pass back works. And so then my kind of final tip over just Perusall is just making sure that you get familiar with the settings within Perusall. So I know, there's some different options there for scoring, as far as, if you want to score students just based on, how many annotations they do, or Perusall actually says recommended right there next to their holistic grading. It's because they have their own kind of algorithm that they use where you can promote further engagement. So not just number of annotations, but how many times throughout the week did they open the reading or the assignment, or how much interaction, like how many times did they respond to another student, how many people responded to them, did they like other posts, did they scroll through the entire document, or did they put all their posts on the first page? So they do have other way, and what it is you can give them more than one way to get 100%. So you can say, okay, like if you, a combination, a variety of ways, if you add in all these other factors, could give you that 100% or give you full credit. And so it's just really kind of playing around with these settings, being aware with these settings. Also, like there's the options of when do you want the grades to come back to Canvas? Do you want it to happen automatically? Do you want to manually push them? Same things like that. So just kind of getting to know these as you're learning the tool. And the IDs and things here can also kind of help you if you have questions about walking through some of that stuff.
So I wanted to respond to Jeff's question. He asked if students ever complain about doing their reading online. Some do. I also allow them to download the readings, so they can download it, make their questions, in a different setting, write it down or whatever, and then add those to the reading. I've told them they can download it and print it out if they want a physical copy, because there have been students who wanted a physical copy and felt like they did better with the physical copy. So they had no problem or issues downloading that and printing it out. I think printing it out is way cheaper than having to buy a textbook that you only use 4 chapters in or whatever. So there's a way around that, I guess. Yeah.
All right, so there are some support pages. If you need some help with, I would suggest first Perusall's website. They have different, a whole section of their website devoted to question and answer and help guides for both instructors and for students, or if you have students who have questions about it. If you have instructional questions about how to use the tool or set up your assignments or best practices, for assignments and engaging students, then we have our instructional designers here for that. And then I also put on there the technical questions, that Perusall has their own support department. And I have reached out to them before and I've gotten immediate response from them. So they've been really great at helping. So, and I can also share this presentation with you so y'all can have access to the links here. So do we have any other questions for our teachers or anything about the tool?
I have a question. I don't know if mine.
Yes, go ahead.
I was wondering if there's any way that you can use Perusall kind of like with a discussion post where they have to make some sort of comment before they can see what other people say. No, there's nothing like that.
Yeah, go ahead, Tia.
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't think so. I don't think it's I don't feel like it has been an issue at all, because what I noticed instead, which I'm letting happen now, but what I've noticed instead is that they don't comment on the same things that other people comment on, because they feel like because someone's already commented on it, that they can't also comment on it. Um, Even if they have a different perspective, like they could still comment on it, but they're like, oh, someone else already did that, so I don't want to say the same thing. So they find something else to expand on and discuss.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will say it will put them into smaller groups. So if you have a larger class, and you can't, that's in the settings as far as if you wanted to adjust that and make the group smaller or larger. But instead of having like say 50 students all commenting over the same resource or the same document and it getting kind of cluttered, it will, I think the default is 15 that but you could switch it to like 10 if you wanted to have like a smaller number and of annotations and stuff within that document.
I have a question. Does this program have any integration as far as like plagiarism detection? Because that has been an issue with my discussion boards in Canvas, is that there's not a way to like detect plagiarism as far as their comments or responses without like going to like a third party tool.
Not that I've seen, not that I've actually never thought about it. Mainly because they're commenting in the reading. You can kind of feel that it's their own comments and their own thoughts, because they're not really having to cite any other works, which I think is where that comes into play in discussion boards. Mm-hmm. So it's more of their thoughts about the reading. And I think you can really feel that that's real and authentic, rather than, okay, I think it would take more work to go and find someone else's comment on something else to put on this little piece in Perusall that you're discussing. But yeah, so I haven't looked for anything like that.
It might be also because it's more of a low stakes, you know, you're commenting, it's not, it maybe doesn't feel as formal as needing to go and pull some facts. But yeah, I agree. I don't think there's any built-in, you know, plagiarism checker in the tool.
Thank you.
They don't have that, but they do have some things where you can flag content though. So like if something were inappropriate or, you know, there was some kind of problematic area, that is an option.
Yeah, you can set it to automatically flag inappropriate words or things like that. I mean, I've never had to use that one, but you can do that.
Yep.
Thank you.
So Jamie, we have a couple questions in the chat area, and one of them, Jeff Chamberlain's asking, do students ever complain about doing their reading online? And I wanted to ask a little bit more about that, regarding if they could read it offline. Like, you know, sometimes I know in my graduate classes, I would print the PDFs off so that I could annotate and, you know, make some notes on my PDF document. But is there a way for students to read it offline and get credit for it? Or do they have to read everything online? And what are their thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think Tia talked about that a little bit, about that they can, she's had students, you know, print it off and they could read it that way. They would still need to come back on to make their comments, you know, to get credit for their comments. But it does allow you to kind of download it and print it. I was trying to scan through those questions in the chat and see if there was any that we missed.
Leslie asked about working with video and commenting on the videos. But that would definitely be a Jason question if you can answer that one, because I haven't done the video yet.
Yeah, let me, I'm trying to make sure I answer the question correct. So How does it work with video, or they're commenting in a specific part? Yeah, with that, basically you can upload the video, or there's different ways to include that. But once the video is in there as an activity, as an assignment, you can go in, and I like to add a lot of questions throughout. So if I provide a reading, I like to go in and add questions to kind of prompt discussions and get feedback on that. They're obviously able to do their own annotations and questions and things throughout as well. But I do the same with the video. And again, I'm new into getting into the video, so I'm just trying that out. But what I did, for example, I went in and added what I thought were good question prompts to kind of open thoughts and dialogue on that. And then, yes, the students go through and do the same. So basically, instead of highlighting a sentence or a passage of some sort, you essentially, where the video is going, you can click on that and it gives you the option to add your content there. So you essentially click the little plus icon, and students are able to go in there, and you can go through that and view, and it'll have it set up where you can see. So in the assignment I have right now, it's not due till Sunday, and as will be the case a lot of times, there will be a lot of traffic over the next 48 hours as the assignment comes closer to time. But for those that started early on in the week, you could go and see how they were doing that and commenting and feeding off of each other. And it was good, so that part was there. And it makes it pretty well. One challenge I've seen with the video is you have kind of the little, I'll call it the little timeline going through. And as you can see, all the different comments adding up, there are a lot of bubbles there along that line. So it's not really a problem. It's just that is something that you'll see visually as more and more students do take part in this. Like Jamie said, you can break this up into groups. They have a default. But if you wanted your groups to be in groups of 5 or 10 or 15 or whatever, that can help as well with some of those kind of considerations.
So I have a question about that, follow-up question for that. Because I use Canvas Studio for the videos so the students can comment. And have you used that? Is there a different?
Yeah, and this is, this is a limited sample size here on what I'm doing. I'm still kind of playing around with some of this and with audio. But what I found with the one I was trying to do, I had uploaded the video earlier as with Canvas Studio. So I had basically, I guess it was an MP4 file. I made it as a Canvas Studio video. And when I tried to you have to be able to find that information to be able to add it to the assignment. So as you're going in and add it, it has to come from somewhere. Just like if you're using a podcast, you need to have like the RSS feed or the URL from the site that it's coming from to do that. You have to be able to have that for the video. So what I had to do was kind of look at some issues. And to directly answer your question, yeah, I ran into issues with Canva. If I tried to use the Canvas Studio like URL, the shareable URL that you can share with anybody, it wouldn't go through like that. I was running into issues, so I had to just go. I'm trying to remember.
But my question really is, have you used Canvas Studio for the commenting aspect, and how different that is from the commenting aspect in Perusall?
Oh, not as much, really. I'll be honest. I don't require comments on my Canvas Studio videos, and I guess by nature of that, students really never in my classes comment on my videos. And depending on what they are, some of them I don't give the option because it just takes up the extra screen space if it's just something simple. But I also like to get the analytics of it to see who's actually watching the video. That's one of the things I like with Canvas Studio, is to be able to see who's watching it and how much time they're spending. Did they watch it through? Yeah. So yeah.
It's pretty similar. Whereas Canvas Studio, you get that list of comments underneath of it. Well, Perusall just puts it kind of to the right of it, like the same way it looks when you have a doc. So and then you still have the little bubbles that mark where in the video there was a comment made. So I would say it's pretty similar to what you can do in Studio with it. It would just be more.
I'm sorry.
It would just be more like grading, because Studio won't grade those for you and makes it difficult to kind of.
That's a good point.
So you would get the benefit of Perusall's grading system, you know.
And what about the accessibility options in Perusall for closed captions and things like that?
I know Studio has it where you can actually, if it's your own video, you can have the auto generated captionings done.
Right.
I haven't played around. Have you looked? I haven't played around enough with the videos in Perusall to know if they probably don't have the auto generated ones. It would probably only just.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about for Perusall. I mean, I'm going to play with it.
But we could help you with that. If you are making your videos and you need them captioned, yeah, let us know if you need help with captioning. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think really with Perusall, it's a great tool. I've enjoyed getting to do that, but it does involve a lot of trial and error. I've found is trying things out, see what works for you, see, you know, just even as simple if you're going to use their grading algorithm. I know the first time I tried it, let's say it was a tough grader, you know, and I had students that were they were trying to figure out what do I grading out of a 1, 2, or 3 criteria, and I had students that were like, I've got a 2 out of 3. You know, whatever their justification is for why they thought they would do better. I spent this much time reading it. I added a lot, you know, and I've found that through time trying to learn better with that, to find something that accurately goes well with that. So that gives me a lot of things to think about, not only utilizing that algorithm, but just in terms of you know, my own assessment, looking through their involvement, their engagement, you know, and I keep encouraging them. I know one thing that keeps surprising me, there's an upvote option where you can basically like comments, and my students very seldom upvote anything. And that is, it's a tiny part of the grading, but that is part of the algorithm. They're encouraged to do it. The resources they're giving them tell them about it. But that's just been one funny thing I've kind of noticed, that basically no one ever upvotes another person's comments. Not really sure why, but you know, just some things to think about.
Thank you for that, because I always wonder, I look at it and I'm like, I have no idea why you got that grade. I don't know why Perusall did that. I didn't even think about the upvoting piece of that. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's really going back into those settings is what I've learned as well with working with y'all, is that if you increase the availability, like you can make upvoting not count as much, and you can increase the other sections so that they can get points from doing other things besides that.
One of the fun things about it is there's so many ways to get points. That's one of the things I like about it. It's not like, well, if you overlook a certain part or slip up here, it ruins your grade. You can get, you know, you can get way more than 100, if you will, you know, on that. There's a lot of ways to get points that go beyond just that a basic threshold. And that's one of the things I like, is that I have a student in class now. She hits all the marks very early before she even has much of a chance to have the kind of engagement I would like to have, because she spends so much time doing certain things. So the first couple of other classmates that do that, there's others that, you know, sometimes you might feel you just lightly read through it and you answered a question or two. And I don't, you know, I've had students want to know why they didn't do better. And I went back and looked at the analytics of it, and they spent hardly any time. They made no comments. They didn't answer anything. They didn't engage. And, you know, so that's all that, again, you learn. I try to coach my students up better at the beginning, just to kind of let them know what's expected of them. And so far, especially this semester, it's been very successful. I mean, the students have done really well. And again, one of my main purposes for using Perusall is I just want the students to encourage them to really read some of the things I want them to read. I want them to be able to engage with each other. And a lot of the things that we're talking about, it's just good to express your ideas and your thoughts on the matter. A lot of the things that we do, it's not something that's clearly right and wrong on a lot of things that we'll do. If we're talking about some creative things and how we're marketing, and you know, I like to see what resonates with them as consumers, and what would they do if they had the opportunity, or what are some of their experiences. And I think that's a great time for them to be able to talk about things like that, because that's their feelings and their experiences and perspectives. And I love to see how they kind of go with each other as they're dealing with their peers commenting, because some are like, yo, I totally agree, I feel the same, you know, or others will be like, that's interesting, you thought that, I would have never thought that at all, but now that you've said it, it makes a lot of sense. And I love to see things like that.
Awesome. I did see one question in the chat that said, can you use Perusall without integrating it into your Canvas course, just as you would like for VoiceThread? And so, yes, you can just, that's what Jason said he's moved to now is, trying that out, that versus the integration. You can just go straight to Perusall, set up an account with yourself there, set up a course there, and then you could just send students straight to Perusall without doing the integration. So. All right. Jason and Tia, if you wouldn't mind staying behind just for a second, but if there aren't any other questions, then I thank y'all all so much for coming today. And if you have, more questions about Perusall, feel free to reach out to me and I can direct you to somebody to help you.